Process variability, as discussed earlier, is an important aspect of statistical process control. Another key aspect of statistical process control is process capability and performance. Process capability and performance together refers to the ability of a process to produce output that meets customer requirements and specifications. The ability of a process to produce output that meets customer requirements and specifications. They are widely used concepts in quality control and continuous improvement efforts, especially in manufacturing and production settings. Now, what is process capability itself? And then, what is process performance? Now, process capability refers to the ability of a process to produce products that meet specification limits when the process is operating in a state of statistical control. Now, it is made up of two indices. The first is process capability index. The second is process capability performance index. Now, the process capability index, which is CP, compares the speed of the process capability to the spread of the specification limits. And it is represented mathematically as specification width divided by the process width, where the specification width is equal to the upper specification limit USL minus the lower specification limit LSL, and the process width equals 6 times standard deviation if assuming that the data follows a normal distribution. How about process capability performance index? The process capability performance index takes into account the mean and variability of the process. The mean and variability of the process. And it is mathematically represented as CK equals the minimum of the USL minus process mean divided by 3 standard deviation, comma, process mean minus the LSL divided by 3 standard deviation. Now, if CPK is greater than or equal to 1.33, many industries consider the process as capable. However, these thresholds may vary between industries. Now, having discussed process capability, how about process performance, PP and PPK? Now, process performance refers to, it represents the performance of a process when it may not be under statistical control or during its initial stages or startup. Now, process performance can be represented using two indices. The first is PP, which is process performance index, and then PPK, which is process performance index. Now, for PP is similar to CP, but refers to the overall performance, not inherent capability. And it is represented using this formula, or can be calculated using this formula. PP equals USL, which is upper specification limit minus lower specification limit, divided by 6 sigma. Now, PPK, which represents process performance index, is similar to CPK, but for overall performance. And PPK can be calculated using the formula, the minimum value of USL minus process mean divided by 3 sigma, comma, process mean minus LSL divided by 3 sigma. What this means is that once you calculate the USL minus the process mean divided by 3 sigma, the first aspect of the formula, and the second aspect of the formula, the minimum, the smallest out of the two, represents the PPK. Likewise, the CPK is the minimum out of the USL minus process mean divided by 3 sigma, comma, process mean minus LSL divided by 3 sigma. The smallest value out of these two values is the CPK. Now, what does CP, CPK, PP, and PPK represent? How do they influence or affect our processes? Now, CP indicates the potential capability of a process if it was centered perfectly between the specification limits. A CP of 1 indicates the process spread is equivalent to the specification spread. Again, a CP of 1 indicates that the process spread is equivalent to the specification spread. Values greater than 1 of CP are desirable. Now, CPK, on the other hand, takes into account the actual process mean and how far it is from the center of the specification limits. CP takes into account the actual process mean and how far it is from the center of the specification limits. It gives a measure of the potential for the process to produce out of specification units. A CPK of 1 indicates the process mean is 1 standard deviation away from a specification limit. Again, a CPK of 1 indicates that the process mean is 1 standard deviation away from a specification limit. The higher the CPK, the better. A CPK greater than 1.3 is often considered good in many industries. How about PP? PP, similar to CP, but uses the standard deviation from observed data, has an overall assessment of system spread to specification spread. It is an overall assessment of system spread to specification spread. Last but not the least, PPK. PPK, similar to CPK, but uses the standard deviation from observed data, evaluates how the mean and variation of the process relates to the specification limits. PPK evaluates how the mean and variation of the process relate to the specification limits. Now, take note of the following. At first, CP and CPK are based on short-term variation, while PP and PPK are based on long-term variation. If CP equals CPK, the process is centered perfectly. Also, if PP and PPK, if PP equals PPK, process performance is centered perfectly. Capability indices will be used as part of a comprehensive process control strategy and not in isolation. Capability indices, again, should be used as part of a comprehensive process control strategy and not in isolation. Always make sure that the process is statistically stable, that is, in statistical control before calculating and interpreting capability indices. If the process is not stable, indices can be misleading. Now, what are the differences between capability and performance? The differences between capability and performance. And these differences will be discussed under 3 subheadings, which are time frame, purpose, and usage. Now, time frame. Capability usually refers to the inherent capability of the process in the long term when the process is under statistical control. Performance refers to the short term and might include special causes of variation. How about purpose? Capability provides insight into how a process can perform when it is stable, while performance provides insights into how it is currently performing. Usage. Capability indices, which are CP, CPK, are often used once a process is stable to determine its potential. Performance indices, PP and PPK, can be used in the initial stages of process setup or during its running phase when it may not be under statistical control. If you haven't done so yet, kindly subscribe to our YouTube channel by clicking on the subscribe button on the screen. Also, click on the notification button to get notified of our future videos. If you find this video especially helpful, please do not hesitate to like and share with your audience on social media.